Okay, Maddie, can you get Phil backstage to go ahead and meet with Angie and Tony, please?
Okay, what do we got, guys?
We have a lot of reveals happening today.
Everybody's really nervous in their green room. Nobody knows who they're going to meet.
Yeah, we've successfully kept them completely separated.
Nobody has an idea of what's going on.
Okay, and Carly?
Yes, we absolutely did. Tyler and his mom, Teresa, are in the last dressing room upstairs. Shayna, the aunt, is on the other side of the building, like at least 100 feet away. Tyler's grandma is in the dressing room downstairs, so there's no way any of these people will see each other before the show. We made sure of it.
Okay. And how well did we manage the expectations of the family?
I think very well. I think they have no idea what's happening. They just want to make a plea.
Okay, so they believe this is the beginning of the search.
Exactly.
How is she this morning about meeting the grandson?
A few weeks ago when she was told about this, she didn't think she was worthy of meeting him.
Well, I'm not sure she's wrong. And I'm not sure they want her back in their lives. You know, everybody thinks this is all going to be like a box of warm puppies and getting around the Christmas tree. It doesn't always work out that way, you know.
I'm nervous for Tyler. He's thinking, oh, I'm going to have my grandma and invite her to my wedding. And
yeah. This is a woman that gave his dad these feelings of abandonment. I'm not sure how this one's going to go. You all have done a great job of putting it together, so thank you.
Hopefully it all works out.
Yeah, one way or the other.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's do it.
Today on an all-new Dr. Phil.
I'm trying to find my grandmother, and I know that's what my dad would have wanted.
She left one picture of herself behind and a whole lot of unanswered questions.
They found her wallet on the side of the road, so she must be dead.
Where is Crystal? Why did she leave him?
Be careful what you ask for.
These things aren't always happy endings. There is one more piece of the puzzle. She's here today. Today's going to be a changing day in your life. You've never had anybody working harder to bring you to the threshold of change than right now. I want you to take a look at this woman. Light brown hair, hazel eyes, maybe 22 years old. She has been a mystery for over 40 years. All we know is her name is Crystal, and she was the mother of this man, Paul. However, Crystal abandoned Paul when he was just a toddler, and this was the only picture that he had of his birth mother. He looked for her for many years, but he never got any answers as to why she just disappeared. Now, throughout his life, Paul dealt with abandonment issues, depression, PTSD, and finally, tragically, it all became just too much for him. Paul took his own life 4 years ago. Now, Tyler is Paul's 21-year-old son, and he has continued his father's search. With the help of his mother, Teresa, they hope to find the answer to Paul's most desperate question. Where is Crystal, and why did she leave him?
Paul had abandonment issues because he never knew his mother. He never knew what happened to her. Paul was battling drugs and alcohol addiction and PTSD.
Things got really bad with depression. He was always in pain 24/7.
Paul was put on several different medications for his depression and his anxiety. Paul already had issues before this. Since his mother abandoned him, anybody else in his life was going to also abandon him. His mother had all these years to look for him and never did. He became even more paranoid that I was going to leave him. Paul walked me to work on October 5th, 2015. When I got home from work that day, Paul was in a deep depression. He jumped up, picked up this rifle.
He went into the bathroom and locked the door.
And that's when I heard the gun go off.
I actually heard the shot.
He was sitting on the toilet and his head was leaning against a wall.
He did not die immediately. He was declared brain dead a week later. My mom made the decision to unhook him from life support.
I definitely think Paul's suicide was directly linked to his abandonment issues. Paul always wondered if his life would have been different if his mother had been around. 3 years after my husband passed, my son became engaged. That's when Tyler and I decided to get serious on trying to find Paul's mom.
I'm trying to find my grandmother. I know that's what my dad would have wanted me to do.
We both want to fulfill Paul's wish to find Crystal and to hopefully build a relationship for Tyler.
First, let me say I'm very sorry for your loss. You really feel like you're doing this not just for you, but you're carrying on this quest for your father.
Yes, sir.
How much did he know?
He knew very little other than a name on a birth certificate. He heard a lot of different stories that they found her wallet on the side of the road, so she must be dead. They heard that she was actually from Canada and wasn't supposed to be here. They've heard so many stories, and nothing ever panned out.
And so you're doing this in part to honor him, and you say you'd like her at your wedding.
Yes, sir.
Is there any part of you that has any resentment towards her if she ever is found?
Part of me, yes, but in my own thought process, I don't really know what she was going through at that moment, so I can't.
You're willing to find out?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, Tyler and Teresa contacted Troy Dunn, the locator, to help them find Crystal. But they didn't know they would meet Troy before the show. Let's take a look at that.
I'd be very interested in talking to Troy Dunn to find out how he is looking to find her and if he has found any kind of information. Because I need to get some kind of closure for Paul and for ourselves.
Hey, Teresa.
Hey.
Tyler, how are you?
I'm good. How about
nice
you?
Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
All right.
I know that the search began with a letter from you, but from what I read, it sounds like you are in some ways doing this for Tyler.
I am doing this for Tyler. He's getting married soon, and I realized that at the wedding, the bride's family is going to be there, and my side of the family is going to be there, and it just kind of feels like Paul's getting lost.
Teresa, what does closure look like to you?
I hate to say this, but I sometimes feel like, you know, I didn't do enough for him. I do blame myself a lot for his death, because sometimes I did give up. There's no way we're gonna be able to find her. I'm sorry, Paul. I wonder if things would have been different if I was able to find her.
You wait until my friend Dr. Phil finds out that you blame yourself for your husband's death. And it sounds like what you're saying is that you believe that completing this search would help your husband, your father, in some way, rest in peace.
I believe it.
Yes, sir. I believe the same.
That is a valiant reason to search. What's the best case scenario on this?
For me, it would probably be being able to find her, to actually meet, and for her to come to my wedding.
Worst case scenario?
That you do find her and she could care less about Paul or Tyler.
You do understand that's a possibility?
Oh, I absolutely understand, but at least then I would know.
If for some reason we end up on a call with Crystal, what could I tell her in behalf of you?
Probably that she has a grandson that wants her to be at his wedding.
You want me to invite her to your wedding?
If you can.
And is there something, Teresa, that you would have me say to her?
I want her to know that her son was a good man and a good father, a good husband.
You have both mentioned that you were doing this to honor your dad's memory, to honor your husband's memory, and it would be my honor to join you in that effort and do our very best and see if we can't find something, somebody, to bring some sense of peace to your life and to his soul.
You've been doing this a long time. How hard is it to find someone that has been missing for 40 years?
This particular story is riddled with misinformation. When they wrote in, reading what they wrote and going through the details, my literal reaction as I hit the last line was, holy Dr. Phil, because I knew I was going to need you to help me navigate this one. Right. So I appreciate that you brought us all here.
Yeah, and the concern, obviously, is that these things aren't always happy endings, and it can be really ugly on the other end.
I have first-hand experience with the concept of the phrase, be careful what you ask for.
Right. While searching for Tyler's grandmother, we stumbled on to something else And we're going to explain that after the break. Tyler's aunt is here today. And you didn't even know she existed, correct?
Right.
Do you have any questions for these two about your brother?
What happened?
And later, there seems to be a pattern here. At 5 years old, she gives you a box and says, I'm not going to take care of you anymore.
Monday, falsely convicted of murder.
Amanda Knox.
I was Foxy Noxy, the monster. When they pronounced guilty, the world crumbled beneath me.
Thrown in a foreign prison.
I was hit, I was screamed at.
Has it changed you forever?
They took my freedom, they couldn't take who I was.
Now she helps others who claim wrongful conviction.
The police knew who did this, and yet they went after the wrong person anyway.
That's Monday. Then on Tuesday, he's been in bed for 5 years.
You said this is the end, and then you laid your happy ass down and you haven't gotten up since.
He'll lay there and die.
I know what's wrong with him. What I don't understand is what's wrong with you.
That's Tuesday.
I still have problems every single day. I remember everything like it was yesterday. I remember the day he took his life, like a picture stained in my head. Him leaned over on the wall with the gun and the blood everywhere. I have not been able to erase that from my mind.
Well, Tyler's father, Paul, struggled with abandonment issues when his mother disappeared from his life when he was just a toddler. She left one picture of herself behind and a whole lot of unanswered questions. There is someone who might be able to provide some valuable background information because she did know Crystal many years ago. Her name is Shayna, and she is Paul's older half-sister. She was 5 years old when her mother, Crystal, took her and her brother, leaving Paul and his sister, Elizabeth, behind. Now, Shayna never saw or heard from Paul again, but she's here today. And you didn't even know she existed, correct?
Right.
Please welcome Tyler's aunt, Shayna. Shayna, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Shayna, this is your nephew, Tyler.
Hi.
It's really nice to meet you.
And this is his mother, Teresa.
Hi, Teresa.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for being willing to come and talk about all this. You've just been in the dark about everything, right? And just been pretty isolated.
Yeah.
Because you never saw him again after what age?
About 5.
But you remember him?
I remember him.
Vividly?
Yes. I remember just playing together in the house. We were pretty little. I was the oldest.
They've known him much more recently than you have. Do you have any questions for these two about your brother?
Well, what happened? Paul's dad died when he was 11, and he ended up in foster care and then ended up with some guardians. And then he joined the military, and he had an injury in the military. He was honorably discharged. We went on to have children, and then in 2014, he had battled some issues with abandonment and PTSD, and he always felt very protective over people. And there was a drug dealer in town that was trying to deal drugs to children and mess around with some elderly people, and he confronted him, and this person hit him in the back of the head. After that, he had short-term memory loss. He couldn't control his emotions anymore. A year later, I came home from work early, and he was in a deep depression, and he ended up going into the bathroom, locking the door, and before we could get the door open, he shot himself.
My God. I'm so sorry.
And you spent how much time with Crystal?
Well, until I was 5, I was with her. And then I saw her once when I was 16, and she lived with me for a few months when I was 19.
I want to talk about what happened during that time next.
One night, she came over and just dropped a note on the floor in front of me. The note said, "I'll be leaving soon." That was the last time that I ever saw her.
And later, you've made some progress, right?
It's been a really strange process so far. There's lots of missing pieces out there. There are lots of possible outcomes.
Hopefully, through all this, I can meet some more family members and build new relationships for my children and my grandchildren. I was excited to meet a nephew that I didn't even know I had. And so if he's getting married, then that'll be another family member. If they have children, that'll be more family.
Well, just 2 weeks ago, Shayna got a call from Troy Dunn, the locator, and was informed her half-brother Paul had committed suicide and his son was looking for her. Now today, she met her nephew Tyler and his mother Teresa for the first time. And so I really was curious about what happened to Shayna after she last saw Paul. Take a look.
When I was 5, my mom put me in the car and we left Paul, and I knew that we were leaving for good. I never saw him again. Once we left, we were on the road with truck drivers. I think my mom was dating the truck drivers. We would sleep in the back, sleeper compartment about this big, with my head at one end and their heads at the other end. Out of the blue one day, the truck driver that we were with took my mom and I to a hotel. Next thing I know, she puts my stuff in a box and told me that she couldn't take care of me and somebody was coming to take me to a different home. And the social worker came and I got in the car and left. I was 5 when I went to the first foster home. Some of the foster homes were good, and the worst one, I was molested by the boyfriend of one of the grown daughters. When I was 10, a family member was able to get custody of me and I left. I thought all of that was over now and I was going to be with family and going to be happy. I ended up putting myself back into foster care. I was in 21 different homes. In the last group home, I was 16, pregnant, so I became emancipated. I ended up getting my own place with my first child, and then I got married at 18.
You know, we're talking about these abandonment issues and this woman that you're going to look for. There seems to be a pattern here. At 5 years old, she just gives you a box and says, not going to take care of you anymore. Somebody else is going to do that. And Shayna says at 19, Crystal asked to stay with her because she was homeless, right?
Right.
Take a look at this.
When I was 19 and married, somehow my husband talked with my mom. She was in a hospital for depression, needed somewhere to go. Before I even knew it, he had made arrangements for her to live with us. Well, it was pretty weird. My mom moved in, she didn't have a job, and I'm pretty much supporting her. She stayed in her room a lot. She was very negative and pessimistic and grouchy. My mom started seeing this guy, and for some reason, she was sneaking him in and out the bedroom window. I was more like the mother, she was more like the child. One night, she came over and just dropped a note on the floor in front of me. The note said, "This isn't working out, we're not getting along, I'll be leaving soon." That was the last time that I ever saw her. Oh my gosh, that's my mom, and that's me.
Is this the only picture that you have of your mom?
I don't even have a picture of my mom. They just showed this to me today. I haven't seen my mom in 30 years. I would love to meet her if she was still alive.
What's y'all's reaction to, I mean, this is the reality of what this woman's life has been and the impact it's had.
I'd rather know than not know.
But we have some more family members in the audience. Shayna's daughter, Anastasia is here. She is Tyler's cousin. She's sitting next to Tyler's fiance. So, guys, say hi.
Nice to meet you, Tyler.
So we have a lot of players here involved in this. How does it feel to know that you do have a cousin that you didn't know about?
It's really crazy. We never had any cousins or uncles or anything our whole life. So he's my first cousin, you know, on my mom's side, sorry. So it's crazy.
Yeah. That's good news, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're glad to meet him?
Happy tears.
Yeah. So Troy did find out some information about Crystal, which I may need to prepare this family to hear if this search is going to continue. We'll talk about that after the break. So when you look at this family tree, what do you think?
A bunch of pieces.
Wow.
And there is one more piece of the puzzle. Well, Tyler contacted Troy Dunn, the locator, to help track down his paternal grandmother, Crystal, who he has never met. And Crystal, I think it's pretty clear, abandoned his father. Troy was able to find Tyler's aunt, Shayna, who has filled in some parts of the dad's story. So you've made some progress, right?
We have made some progress, Dr. Phil. It's been a really strange process so far because we're jumping through certificates of the wreckage of her life, to be real blunt. I mean, we're going through divorce certificates, marriage certificates, certificates that weren't actually correct. There's lots of missing pieces out there. There are lots of possible outcomes.
We did find out some family tree information that you were able to piece together, right?
Yeah.
And I want to take a look at that. We've got John, who was dad 1, Jim's dad 2, then we've got dad number 3 and dad number 4. You're pretty confident that these 4 people existed.
We believe that there's at least that many.
You've got Shayna, 1970, then Sean, 1971. And then you've got Paul and Elizabeth, and this was from dad number 2, and these 2 were left with dad number 2 when she departed with you, correct?
That's correct.
And your sister, okay. Now, this was about 1975, 71 when she left, then 73 and 75 for Paul and Elizabeth. Now, Jamie was born in 1979. Now, did you know about Jamie? This is a girl.
Yes, only now that you mention it, though, I had forgotten all about it. I've never met her.
You've never met her?
Only heard about her, yeah.
Okay. And you guys, of course, knew nothing about this, right?
No.
Then from dad number 4 in 1992 is Bo. So she basically had 6 children. She raised 1 out of 6, right?
And even, yes, that might even be a stretch, but yes, there was 1 that stayed with her longer than the others.
Yeah.
And the other 5 are scattered.
Yeah. And there is one more piece of the puzzle, and that is Troy, who is relentless, did find Crystal, and she is here. Anything you want to say to your grandmother?
Why did you just leave my father when he was real young?
And later, how did you feel about her reaction seeing you for the first time in 30 years?
I thought there would be maybe a hug.
Troy, who is relentless, did find Crystal, and she is here. So let's please welcome Crystal. Well, Crystal, let me make some introductions here. because some of these people, I know that you can't know. This is your grandson, Tyler. It's Paul's son. This is Teresa, his wife. You know Shayna, of course.
Hi.
You didn't know Shayna was going to be here, right?
No.
And you haven't seen her for how long?
It's, what, 30 years?
Yeah.
How do you feel about being here?
A little bit scared, but happy that there might be some more family.
Anything you want to say to your grandmother?
Just why did you just leave my father when he was real young?
Well, your father was little, and his father started becoming so mean. I didn't have the skills I didn't have any pride in myself either, because I was taught that I was slow, I was stupid.
Where have you been all these years? Did you want to not be found, people not know where you were?
No, that wasn't my intention, but my phone never rang for somebody looking for me.
But you knew you had children out there.
Yeah.
Did you ever occur to you that you might want to reach out to those children and just let them know where you were, or be curious how they were doing, or?
I actually tried. I couldn't pay an investigator much.
Sure.
So I got one that would take what little I had, and he came up with nothing, and that just sent me further down into a tailspin. I would have been able to keep the kids if my family had been there for me. I had nobody. I couldn't even get a lawyer. My two sisters would not even stand beside me. My mother told me, I made my bed, now lay in it. Nobody, I had nobody.
Well, coming up, Tyler's question was, why wasn't Crystal in his father's life? She gave somewhat of an answer, and then I'm going to introduce someone else to this conversation to talk about some of the genetics involved here. We'll be right back.
When I left Jim, I took my two kids from the previous marriage. I had to leave Paul and his sister behind. Jim told me if I left and took his kids, he would kill me. And of course, I believed him. I have 6 children. I know where one of them is, the one I finally got to raise myself. That leaves 5, but Paul passed away. I have no idea what the other 4 children are doing. I don't think I was a tip-top mom. I couldn't have been. I was not prepared to be a mother. I didn't know how to be a mother. When I left my children, I thought they would be better off with somebody else raising them. I really don't know if my children would be interested in meeting me.
Well, Crystal was a mystery to her grandson, Tyler, until today. She walked out of Tyler's dad's life 43 years ago when he was just a toddler. Paul is no longer with us. He took his own life back in 2015, and he never got to see his mother again, something he always struggled with. Troy Dunn, the locator, worked his magic and was able to solve this mystery for Tyler, and also helped reunite Crystal with her daughter Shayna, who she hadn't seen in almost 30 years. Here's Crystal's side of the story.
Jim and I had Paul in '73. Jim was really nice at first. He was a loving father, and he just changed. My husband was yelling and spanking the two older kids from the previous marriage. Jim got really controlling and mean. Jim wasn't physically abusive with me. It was more mental and emotional. When I left Jim, I took my two kids from the previous marriage. I had to leave Paul and his sister behind. Jim told me if I left and took his kids, he would kill me. And of course, I believed him. Once I left my husband, I never saw Paul or my other daughter again. If I'd have known that I was never going to see them again, I might have tried to take them with me. Paul was very loving and sweet. He was the best baby. He would smile the most. He hardly ever cried. When Troy Dunn's office called me and informed me that Paul had passed, it really saddened me. I don't think anybody's passing affected me as much as that one. Out of all the children I had, I would have liked to have seen Paul the most. I didn't feel worthy to meet my grandson before, but I do want to meet him. I just love Paul so much. I'd like to have a relationship with this grandson and maybe eventually hold a great-grandchild in my arms.
Well, joining us now, I've added a very dear friend of mine and a member of the Dr. Phil Advisory Board here, Dr. Charles Sophie. Now, Dr. Sophie is the medical director of the Department of Child and Family Services for Los Angeles, which is the largest agency in the entire country. The dysfunction in this situation from this family tree is monumental, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's just generational. It's layer after layer after layer. But
Right.
the good news is it can be stopped.
Well, and that's one of the things that I want to talk about here. And, you know, Crystal's not aware of some of this. She wasn't aware that her son took his own life.
Right.
She's been in some contact with Shayna, but I don't know that you're aware of what all her life has been filled with. 21 different foster homes by high school age, subjected to molestation in age brackets of 6 to 9 and 13 to 15, 4 children by the age of 20, self-medicating, turning to drugs, fought her way to sobriety. You've had a very rough trip here. How did you feel about her reaction seeing you for the first time in 30 years when she came out?
I thought there would be maybe a hug.
You said Paul was your favorite.
Yeah, I know you're not supposed to have favorites.
Well, I'm not sure I'd want to be your favorite if you left me behind. Really, but then I'm not sure that I would have wanted to have gone either, given what it led to with you. And, you know, what you're saying is you did the best you could with what you had at the time.
I didn't have any idea of what to do. The way I was raised fit right in with the way Jim was a husband. Don't talk to neighbors. You don't get friends. You don't need friends. The house is where you belong. Just constantly putting me down. I had just already been abused so much, like with your father. I didn't have anybody to even go to say, well, you're wrong or you're right or perhaps you should try this. I had nobody.
Dr. Sophie, you talked about the legacy here, and a question that you should have, if you don't, is how much of this is genetic? Because what we're talking about here are a lot of dysfunction and disorders. We're talking about depression, we're talking about a lack of empathy, we're talking about attachment disorders, we're talking about all kinds of maladaptive behavioral patterns in life. How much of this is genetic? Is he handcuffed to this? Is he destined to this genetically to do the same thing?
No, but first of all,
because I guarantee you want to know the answer to this, right? You want to know if you're marrying into the Titanic or if there's an opportunity here for something different.
I mean, first of all, I would like to congratulate you, and I have the highest respect for you for pulling your family together. Good for you. And it's a choice of yours and all of you to decide if that's the kind of life you want to live, because genetically, you have a 50% chance to have any of these disorders. And then if you have a parent who directly has something, which you did, then you have even a 4 or 5 times greater chance of having it. So stay aware of it, stay on top of your mental health, be aware of things, and no substances, because it'll take you down a hole for all of you.
Okay, when you say a higher risk, there are some things that are genetically transmitted just for sure, like baldness.
Right.
That's something that you don't kind of maybe you have a predisposition to. It's either transmitted or it's not. Other things there's a predisposition for. And the fact that it can be overcome, I was talking to Carla Pennington, our executive producer, and she pointed out quite rightly, you had 4 children starting at 17, you raised them all.
Right.
Yes.
So that's a perfect example of the fact that you can overcome that both environmentally and genetically and do what you need to do. So that's a perfect example of the fact that you don't have to become victim to the predisposition.
Right.
We'll be right back. You've now met your grandmother, the woman that your father was looking for, and you completed that. You finished that mission for him. Are you glad of that?
Yeah, yes, sir. I'm very, very happy about that.
Yeah.
I know he's going to be, I know he's looking down proud.
My advice to anyone, and Troy has really been good about this with families over the years, is you always tell people that reunite under whatever circumstances to take it a step at a time, right?
That is correct. Can I just tell you, because I know your dad's not here to say it, I am so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. What you've been through. I mean, I think as we all sit here, we all might forget that one of us in this group is 21 years old. I mean, that is extraordinary. You've seen things that none of us should ever have to see. You walked through a journey we should never have to walk through. And I think you made your dad very proud today, and I think that you are the greatest asset in your family.
Okay, I want to thank all of my guests today, and a special thanks to Dr. Sophie and Troy Dunn, the locator, and his team. Continue to help those searching for long-lost loved ones. Now, you can reach Troy at thelocator.org. You can also donate to the work they do and help grant reunion wishes for others. And, you know, I like to read comments you guys leave for me on my social media. Here's a fun tweet from Taylor. She says, Dr. Phil, will you officiate my wedding? Yeah. I'd rather be the DJ and play some tunes. How about that? But seriously, thanks for keeping in touch, Taylor, and congratulations on your wedding. Who knows, I may share your comment next. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I know you guys are going to have a lot of comments about today's show, so we'll be looking to see what you have to say. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.
Sorry I didn't recognize you. I should have.
Did you have something you've been wanting to say to your mother-in-law?
He was a really good man. He really, really, really was. He went through a really bad situation growing up. But I'm gonna tell you, he was a good dad. He was a good husband, and he was always thinking he had to protect everybody. We miss him very much every day.
You had given me a date and a deadline for when we were going to get this done because of that, and you told me why. Is that something you still want to
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Would like you to come to my wedding in Texas.
I don't know how I would ever get there.
Here is your grandson. He wanted his father to be there, but his father was gone. And so for him, the next best thing was his father's mom. Is this a wedding that you want to attend?
Yes.
I also wanted to invite you guys to.
I would love that.
As Dr. Phil mentioned earlier about taking this one step at a time, I would encourage all of you to not just take it slowly, but to still continue to pick out the relationships that feel good and natural to you.
Bounce, bounce, all the girlies bounce. Take 'em to my house, turn the party out. Bounce, 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 all the girlies bounce. Take 'em to my house, turn the party out.
You warned me 1,000 times, memories can kill ya, but I didn't hear ya. I thought that I could fly, but woke up on the asphalt. I swear there was the last time. I've always been naive, call it